I went to an event that literally changed my life because the mystic there was so powerful that once you step into a field that can harness and carry the fullness of Christ consciousness, it affects everything and everybody around it. It's where you put your focus. If your focus is on getting pure and getting to a place of wholeness and discovering Christ consciousness and getting into the point of working with angels and stuff, literally just start talking to them. If Archangel Michael, in the way, my experience that happened, if that happened to the majority of society, I really don't think that they could handle it.
Welcome to Coded Consciousness, where ancient wisdom, cosmic insight, and modern awareness meet.
I'm Kristina, a multidimensional channeler, energy alchemist, and esoteric teacher.
And I'm Richard, producer and co-host, here to ask the grounded questions that bridge these worlds together.
Together, we explore consciousness, spiritual awakening, hidden history, and the deeper mysteries of our reality.
If these conversations resonate with you, subscribe, like the video, and join us in the comments for lively discussions.
You can also visit codedconsciousness.com to learn more about working with us or share your story.
Now let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Coded Consciousness. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that's going to challenge a lot of what you were probably brought up with, and that is Christ consciousness. And you know what I learned about Christ consciousness? That the word itself, Christ, comes from the Greek word Christos.
Yeah.
And Christos means the anointed one.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we strip away 2,000 years of religious programming, I think the question becomes not like, who was Jesus? Because that was taught all the time.
Right.
It becomes more of, what is Christ?
Yeah.
And you've had many experiences with Christ himself.
Yeah.
And I want you to take us back to one of those earlier moments. I remember you telling me a story about being in the church and in that setting.
Yeah. So just at that point in time in my journey, I was experiencing Christ more as an external energy or entity. I'd already had the religious programming about who Jesus was, what Jesus was. That was the only thing, and if you didn't believe like that, then you would go to hell. If I really questioned outside of those parameters of how it was taught in church. But anyway, so at that time I was having experiences with Jesus as an external energy that was coming into my field, revealing itself in a way as an external force, which hindsight, I did not carry the inner. Had Christ, had that energy come into me at that point in my life, my body, my psyche, my everything about me couldn't have housed it. I was not in that place. So anyway, external figure, frequency, interdimensional being, no matter how you want to look at it. But yeah, so I started having experiences where I would feel him, see him, experience him come into the church. I would see multiple different experiences back then. And then moving on to just prior to my spiritual awakening outside of the church setting, whereas I'd already left the church and was now just doing my own version of church and at home. And I had experience there where I was watching a worship video, a Sunday morning service on TV, and went into this visionary experience where Jesus came and bent down and washed my feet. And so this is an ethereal experience that you don't really see with the human eye, what little bit of the spectrum of light that we can see with these things. So it was an ethereal experience where I call it a vision. That word really doesn't do it justice, but still, call it what you want. But Jesus came and washed my feet. And it was such a weird thing for me. It devastated me inside to see him doing that to me. this was happening. I'm having this experience with Jesus in the room, and I'm about to lose it. But my husband at the time wasn't real in tune with this stuff. And I think due to like religious programming and the hardness of how like our parents had been about the issue and things like that, you're scared to question it or to open yourself up to these greater experiences. So I was afraid to even have an emotional reaction like to this thing that I'm experiencing because I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be condemned. I didn't want it to be used later in an argument that, you know, that I'm making things up or that there's this or whatever. So just whatever those fears were, I was afraid to have an emotional reaction to it. And so I'm just sitting, I'm trying to hold it inside, and I'm just about to lose it because here's Jesus washing my damn feet.
Yeah, you probably didn't feel worthy enough for that experience.
Yeah, so that's all. That's everything I'm feeling inside, and I'm about to lose it over it. And about that time, and my eyes are closed. I'm sitting here at this point, like trying to keep it inside. I've got my eyes closed, and I'm just trying to harness all of my feelings inside. And about that time, like my husband at the time reached over and touched my leg. And when I felt that, every bit of the emotional stuff just come out. I fell into the floor. I was face down on the floor, and I was telling Jesus, I was like, I am not worthy. Like, what are you doing? I am not worthy. Like, I should be washing your feet. What is this? And so I'm just face down on the floor, just boo-hooing, tears pouring out. And then I finally gather myself a little bit where I can sit up, and then I look over, and now Jesus is standing at my front door and just goes like this. And the front door is actually open. It's a nicer day. And so he just does like this and says to me, now go wash theirs. And then that was it. The experience was over. Holographic Jesus disappears.
Yeah.
The energy leaves the room. Like things start to settle back down into more of the 3D, getting grounded back down into the 3D. And so my husband at the time, who did not really have experiences of his own and questioned mine, had a different experience that day.
I'll go more into that. What did he?
Yeah. So after I got settled down, which was several minutes of crying and all the things, I sat back down on the couch, and he said, can we talk about what just happened there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, do you want to hear what I have to say, what I saw? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he said, I don't know, like, what you just experienced over there, but he said, what I saw was, he said, I looked over and I saw these waves of light around you. He said, it was like streamers of light, like doing like this, and was just surrounding you and all over you. And he said, I knew like that you had to have been having like some kind of wild experience. So then I told him.
That confirmed it for you. That validated that what just happened was real.
Somebody else saw it too, or saw a thing happening. And so, of course, I went in and told him what I had just experienced. But that was my earlier experiences. I had multiple of them. And even outside of what I would experience myself, again, I would see in church when it wasn't just focused on me. I'd see him come in and work with a row of people, send a bit of energy down that row, and just see people cry and lose it in that row.
Yeah. So what did that energy feel like in your body? Not like what you thought about it in your mind, but what did it physically feel like?
Well, so that's the thing. At that time, Christ consciousness wasn't really coming into the body much. It was more its presence, its biosphere of energy, it's what it would come into my sphere as an external force and interact with my biosphere, cleaning up things, altering things, showing me different things about myself. But so it was not really that intense. It was very peaceful. Like when that energy would show up, I would get into a much clearer headspace, a much more positive headspace, things like that. But I wasn't really able to harness that energy within the body yet. So it was just that external presence coming in, I think, approaching to clean up my vibration in order to clean me up, to be able to come in and actually be within the structure without killing it.
So I
it's
guess,
a powerful force.
yeah, so I guess in that moment, did you have a name for it, or did you know this was Christ consciousness, like coming into me, or did that come later? Let's go into that.
At that point, I had no idea. I'd never heard the term Christ consciousness. I was a Christian in Alabama in the Bible Belt. We know about Jesus dying for your sins and you go to hell if you don't believe it.
Yeah,
And that's all
that's
we
about it.
had.
Right,
Yeah, that's it. The sermons were about the same every Sunday. Preach love and kindness and happiness while half the people or most of the people really aren't operating in it. But that's what we're taught. And that if you stepped outside of that belief, if you even looked into anything else, read other books, questioned, then, oh no, you'll go straight to hell for that. So we were raised under a lot of fear behind looking outside of anything outside of the Bible. And no, at that time, I did not have the awareness of Christ consciousness. And I just had the Jesus train, the Jesus teachings. But
Yeah, the religious programming.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so that's how the energy presented itself to me, was through the figure of Jesus, because that's what I knew. That's what I've been taught. And if the Christ consciousness energy had to come to me in any other form, like now, because now at this point, I've entertained a multitude of angels and cosmic figures and gods and goddesses and things like that. But at that point in my journey, had that consciousness tried to come and speak with me, work with me in any form other than Jesus, I wouldn't have been able to accept it. I would have immediately, just like I was taught, that's demonic. Whatever that is demonic, because it's not Jesus. So yeah, I did not know about Christ consciousness at that point.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people will agree with you. We were all taught Jesus died for our sins, and that was the message all
Yeah.
the time. People can agree with that. But I think your perception or your understanding of Christ consciousness evolved over time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us when that shift happened for you?
Yeah. At that point in my life, I was in a very toxic situation at home.
Yeah.
And what's unique about it is it's what we do in Christianity. We hide shit to make things look like they're good on the surface. Well, because we're out here telling everybody, oh, Jesus will change your life. Become a Christian and it'll change your life. And I'm not saying that can't be true. It can be. But in that, I was just in a situation at home it was toxic and abusive. And being in that toxic situation, I was out preaching at everybody else, come on and get Jesus. But behind the scenes, like, my life was a mess. I thought I was doing right. I really did. Like, I had a great heart and I thought that I was doing right. But at the end of the day, like, hindsight looking back, I realized, like, I was in an abusive, toxic situation at home. And I'm trying to keep it together for the sake of Christianity, for the sake of not disappointing my family, for lots of reasons that were not the correct reason to be in union with someone.
Yeah, so on the surface, it was more performative than what was actually taking place.
Yeah, so things started shifting sometime after I had my son, maybe when he was about 2. I had already gone through a particular level of spiritual awakening before that, probably 2016, 2017, 2018, through that point. I'd already had one layer of spiritual awakening that sent me deeper into a walk with Christ than I had been raised in, than I had awareness of in earlier years. But then when my son was a couple of years old and the situation at home just got extremely worse, it just progressively worse and worse. And something just snapped in me. And Jesus was working with me because I was journaling every day. God, what is happening? What is going on? This can't be right. Like, I'm doing right. I'm doing all the things that I was taught that I was supposed to. And like, shit is just not working out right. And at one point, my husband at that time went to work and was actually gone during the day for long periods of time, which had not been very common because we were just owning our own businesses and working together and such most of the time. And at that point, like, I just found myself on the floor. Every minute that I had free, I was pounding my fist on my living room floor, just screaming at God, something's not right. Something's not right. You've got to fix this. What is it? And so Jesus, as the Christ figure that I was aware of, this Christ consciousness came to me in this figure, this Jesus form, and started really working with me, like teaching me things. And like, I know I mentioned before, but I had the Kundalini awakening. I didn't know what that was until a couple of years after it happened, until I had already been through the process. And then I started learning about Kundalini, but he worked with me through that process, taught me how to cut cords, sexual cords, that attachments that had been there for a long time that I did not know about, taught me about energy and things like that. So I would say it's at that point, like really right before my divorce, maybe 6 months to a year, that things really started shifting for me, and Jesus teaching me the difference between what I believed in religion and Jesus as a savior figure to actual Christ being an energy that's formless and timeless, really.
So the word Christ, the Greek word meaning the anointed one, the word Christ consciousness, to you, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so to me, that is the Christos spirit that inhabited the body of Jesus of Nazareth, also other figures throughout history. But here in America, or I think it's 60% of the population of the world, I think, is Christianity. Yeah. So it's not just here in America. But yeah, that Christos spirit, the Christ consciousness, is an energy. I don't really want to call it an entity, but it is a thing. It's an organized thing, an organized energy that once a person's vibration reaches a point that it could be a match for that energy starts communing with it and teaching that person and working with that. But it's an invisible force of the universe. It's the heart of the universe, the energy of the heart of the universe. It's Christ consciousness is kind. It's compassionate. It's also fierce and protective. It's not just, we're taught in Christianity to just expend all of our energy on everything and everybody else and just give everything away and do all the things. And now Jesus did talk about giving things away and giving to the poor and things, but Christ consciousness teaches you to love yourself and others. I think there might be a Bible verse that says to love others as you love yourself. That's one of the first things that I started learning with Christ consciousness is self-love. That I have been giving a lot away and using up all of my energy for other people, and while completely disrespecting myself, not having self-love, not having self-respect, not having those things. And until you find those things within yourself, what you're doing for others is not done in the right energy. But yeah, Christ consciousness just basically is the heart of the universe, and it's the energy that represents that. But yeah, it's the same energy that embodied Jesus.
It's a state of consciousness. So it's not like Jesus himself, the man, he didn't own that frequency. It's within all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it is, but it's inactive in most people. or I won't say most people. I can't judge and say how many, but I know the majority of the people I know, it's inactive in their field. We have these. Our system is entirely more complex than we've been led to believe. And that's due to science and only believing about the things that can be dissected and looked at and viewed. If you get
And
into
studied under the microscope.
exactly,
Yeah.
but you get into other traditions that study like the chakras and things like that, you realize there really is more to the energy body than what we've discovered in modern day science. And so Christ consciousness, if you carry the frequency, like these things are activated within the self based on frequency. So while everybody has the potentiality to carry Christ consciousness, to work with it, to allow it to embody that person or to embody Christ consciousness. Yeah, so everybody has that template inside where that program can run.
Here's what I find really interesting. So Jesus led you out of Christianity because of the religious institution it was built around. You want to walk me through that?
Yeah, complicated process, but it had to do. This is when I opened up the rabbit hole and got really shunned at church and accused of being a dope dealer when I was trying to bring CBD to the market and teach about its benefits in the body. So that was like the final straw in leaving like organized religion. I was still practicing at home, but unplugging some from the more structured beliefs, the more rigid beliefs, that's a better word, of Christianity. And yeah, just Jesus started working with me at home. I had more freedom to allow my spirit to commune with him. And I hate to say the term Jesus, but that is the figure that was coming to me and teaching me at that point because I couldn't see it. I wouldn't have been able to see it and work with it any other way.
Right.
But yeah, just being pulled out and taught really about what love is and moving on to the angelics and the other gods and goddesses, being shown that they're all part of the universal plan and they've worked with people in all around the world in different ways for thousands and thousands of years since the beginning of humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jesus, like, he embodied love and compassion. And then you talk about the angelics. And I remember a story you told me about Archangel Michael being completely the opposite, I would say.
It's not the opposite because they're, oh, gosh.
It was, I guess opposite is not the right word, but completely different.
It's a different energy.
Yeah.
They operate from the same place of love, but that's the thing is Christ consciousness teaches you that what we've been taught as love here in this plane is usually not love. It's not the kind of love that Christ carries, that God carries. And like we could go deep into language here and how that's been manipulated and over the centuries and such, over millennia.
Yeah, like what is it called? Etymology?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Hebrew word for the anointed one is actually Masaka, or it's similar to Messiah. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but a lot of people relate that to the Savior. But
It's not. It's the anointed one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And that was the anointed one coming to them in that time that it was needed in that culture to do a thing, to come and spread love, awareness, things like that. But so getting into the angelics, we might come back to word etymology and such later.
Yeah.
But I guess I can say that biblically there are 3 different words for love, maybe more than that, but I'm aware of 3 main words. Is the English language translates every one of those words, agape being the greatest. That's the way that God loves. But there are 2 other forms as well, and they're all translated into the word love. So you read the Bible and you don't realize that word, they're all different. They all meant something different in the Hebrew language. There were greater degrees of love. So Christ consciousness coming in taught me that most every bit of love that I've ever received in my life was not the kind of love that Christ loves with, or the kind of love that God loves with. Those are all, they're different expressions of love to a greater and greater degree. So with Archangel Michael talking about how he's the opposite, it's not really the opposite. It's that he doesn't just operate under that Christ framework of love, kindness, compassion, etc. While he does, like he works with that energy, he's just his own like separate thing. It's a different dimensional state of being.
He serves a specific purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a badass.
Yeah.
He's a protector, and a protector can be fierce, a really fierce thing that, hey, if you don't get your ass in line, yeah, I might fuck you up a little bit.
So Michael himself, he's bringing things to the surface.
Yeah.
He's making you look within and saying, what are these things that I need to address within myself? Yeah, to become.
But that also depends too on what dimensional plane you're viewing. Just as I talked about, like how Christ will start coming in from a distance as an external thing. I had a client one time. It's actually what brought her into my field is she kept seeing blue orbs everywhere. They were showing up on her Ring cameras. She was seeing them. There was another thing, like a lightning had struck her tree. And I have a photo of this perfect, like, it's literally an angel. It's like the lightning struck it and pulled one branch, one huge section of the tree came off and left this perfect, you can perfectly see the angel wings with the angel in the center of it. And so this happened like quite often in a short period of time. And so that's what brought her into my field. And we started discussing, you've probably got Archangel Michael coming in. You've got the blue, you've got this, and talking about some events that were happening in her life. So at that point, she had more experiences with Archangel Michael than I have.
Yeah.
But it was from a way out there perspective. He's like coming in and having to show himself in just like this blue form and then showing up like in the tree thing. It's like a lot of people are scared of this stuff. If Archangel Michael, in the way, my experience that happened here in the living room floor, if that happened to the majority of society, I really don't think that they could handle it without ending up in a psych ward or or something, afraid that they've got demon. I don't know like what other people would feel about it, except for I know that client that I had is her vibration was not even close to being able to withstand a visit like that from Michael. Oh. So they have to, just like Christ did me for a while, approaching in little subtle forms and coming in subtly as to not just fully disrupt the system to send it way off course and into a psych ward. Yes. But it comes in and it approaches. And so the same way with Michael, but his energy face to face, like in this kind of proximity, yeah, it was really painful.
Physically?
Yes. I was in the floor in fetal position with him standing behind me. It's, I want to say on fire, but it's not like what we see as fire. It is just fiery. If you imagine like something on fire and lightning striking it, and just what one might view as just absolute power that I don't know how to describe. So yeah, it was painful because not only is it that physical thing, like what was happening was with me is it's like there was telepathic transmission. I don't really like the word telepathic, but I don't know what else to use because it's just an energy transference. It's a level of consciousness, a level of awareness where there is no need for words to communicate. Everything is energy out here in the field. Our thoughts create, and this can be read. You can put a cap on, and they can literally translate your thoughts onto a computer screen.
To transfer knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's essentially that same thing. It's like coming into that presence, and all of those barriers, the psychological buildups that we have within the self, where we can't admit that because that will make us look bad. We can't. All of that dissolves, and everything was brought to the surface. And so I was seeing myself for who I was. Things I had done in the past was revealing what was going on at the deepest subconscious levels, what that was, any bits of control that I thought I had over people, or any bits of jealousy that I had about people, or any bits of anything. It's like all of that was brought to the surface for me to look at. And this is why. And so it was just complete physical, emotional, mental breakdown of the self with Michael standing in my living room. It was devastating to see through his eyes, or through his perspective, through his shared being in the room of who God is, what God looks like through that perception. Because his psyche, his self was open too. It was all...
Okay, it looks like you were being shown some subconscious negative junk.
Yeah,
right?
but also seeing the true nature of the universe.
But yeah, also having a moment of clarity.
Yeah. How scary. To be honest. But then I told you, after that, like, I had multiple encounters with him where he flung that book off the shelf. It goes toppling across the floor. And of course, the universe is trying to evict fear from me at that point. And I, of course, had a jolt of fear because with Hollywood and how we're taught in religion and the exorcism movies and how we've been programmed to believe about things moving around in our physical reality, that's like some type of demonic or ghostly shit. And so anyway, that initial fear comes up, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember you, Michael. I got you. Go ahead and throw the books out for me to read. That's cool.
Tell the audience, what was the title of that book that got flung across the room from the bookshelf?
The title of the book is This Book Will Blow Your Mind.
And when the book came off the shelf, did you open up to a page and start reading?
So I took the 3 books because that was the 3rd book. Yeah. And so I took the 3 books outside with my blanket and I flipped through. And yeah, it's a really interesting book. It's just one I picked up at the thrift store, honestly. And it's about quantum physics and spirituality. It's about the stuff that Michael would probably say, yeah, like at that point in my journey, this is what you need to read because this is going to give you some insight, deeper insight. I'd already gotten into the quantum physics studies in my own way. I'd already kind of got into that, but that was a in-depth confirmation for me about how the universe was communicating with me about quantum physics and spirituality and esoteric teachings and stuff like that.
So tell me about your friend in Belgium and how that relates to your experiences with Archangel Michael.
Just in that same time, he just happened to come into my sphere through social media. And our first video chat, I learned that he could harness angelic frequency. And at the point where he came into my sphere, he was trying to figure out his higher self. And that was one of the first things he asked me in our first chat was like, what do I look like to you? What energy? And I was like, definitely Archangel Michael energy. And he was like, okay, I want you to listen to this channel message I got from this lady. So he sends it over to me. And she was a channeler. She had said the same thing. He had some people trying to tell him he was this or that or whatever. her message said the same thing. It was like, I definitely see Archangel Michael like as your higher self, as your energy that you can harness in, that you can really pull down and walk in. And so, yeah, it was just really an incredible experience for me because he and I got to have some higher self conversations. He's a good bit younger than me. He's 26.
Yeah.
Incredibly intelligent. So his 3D life is just a machinist or a factory worker of some sort. But as far as what he is aware of consciously, like his conscious awareness and his level of depth that he understands in spirituality is beyond, I'm tempted to say beyond anybody that I've ever talked with in this 3D realm.
Oh, that's pretty big then. Talk about some of those higher self conversations you've had with him.
Because that gets deep.
Yeah, I know it gets deep. Something that probably, that stands out in your mind first. And
It's just that he understands, he understands things as I do, as far as like entities and energies and how they work in us, through us, around us, etc. And our last conversation was about how some energies in the universe were demonized a long time ago for particular reasons, and just our talk on how we view these energies now, which is wildly different than the majority of society. Taking it beyond our conversation, people like to have something external to blame. Everybody likes to blame the devil.
yeah,
Nobody's looking at the self and deep down inside and how those energies operate in this plane. As I asked my son a few nights ago we were talking about the devil, and he was expressing some fear about, I hope that this entity never comes here and does this and blah. And I was like, buddy, how many people in the Bible do you know that demons or the devil murdered or whatever? And he was like, oh, none. Because he goes to a Christian school, so he's familiar with biblical things. And I was like, now, how many people do you know that have been hurt by other people, killed by other people, all the things? And so a lot of times my higher self conversations are with people who have fully taken responsibility of the self and understand that these are archetypes that work through us. And so there's a lot of people out there operating under devilish programming.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's not this external force, really, that's causing all the damage. It's the stuff inside of humanity. And so, yeah, higher self conversations are just, it's like we're able to rise to a different point and have kind of like that same experience that I had with Archangel Michael, where you don't have as many subconscious blocks. Because it's my belief, and actually an entity from the Galactic Federation, which we'll get into in the next episode, talked to me about that, about telepathy being a natural ability on this planet. But that the reason it's not so is because people have too much to hide.
right.
People have too much to hide, and they've got these subconscious blocks built up. And so we can't really operate in that without deconstructing all of those subconscious beliefs, really breaking the self down to a level of Christ consciousness where you understand that all humans, all beings have a purpose here and are worthy of love. They really are. They're worthy of love. They're worthy of favor. They are worthy of bowing down and washing their feet. Every person is worthy of that.
So deconstructing the self and being able to embody frequencies like Christ consciousness, whether it's one of the angelics.
Yeah. And so like with my friend in Belgium that is able to harness the Archangel Michael's energy, we're able to rise because both of us have done that. We've deconstructed the subconscious beliefs and things, and we really have nothing to hide from each other. We're very open about who we are, all the things. There's just nothing that we feel we need to hide from each other. So we're able to rise and have conversations that are still happening in the 3D, but there's so much more being seen and understood and learned. So there's like energy transference that happens. And so now it's just a really cool experience because I've already had the experience energetically with Archangel Michael. I got to feel what his energy is, what his imprint is like, it's so complicated to explain because it's not what he looks like. It's not like that. It's just what I got to experience his being. And now I'm able to recognize it, like in my friend. So now I'm not only communicating via FaceTime across the world with my 3D friend, I'm also having a higher self conversation with the angelic archangel archetype that can operate through him. So it's like multidimensional conversations is what.
Okay, if that conversation didn't take place over a video chat, whether it's an iPhone or whatever, do you think you can have that higher level? Do you need to physically see the other person?
No, it can definitely happen just through phone conversations.
Yeah.
I had actually a reading. This was done on myself back a few years ago she's a channeler. The best, all these people have slightly different labels to what.
Right, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all the
same thing.
Yeah, you've woken up to that all this is energy. That we're in a simulation and everything is energy.
Yeah.
Whatever label you choose is irrelevant, but it's all the same. But anyway, so I had an experience with her. I was pretty excited because I like video chats. I like to see. I'd already had a session with her partner, and then he was like, she's going to want to see you. We're going to give you a free session with her because she's going to want to see your energy.
I remember you telling me about this one. This is the one in California?
Yeah, I'm not real sure where she's at. So I know the one in California is the one that I originally talked to, and he's the one that taught me energy work and how chakra work. But yeah, he said, I'm going to put you on her. She's an expert in past life stuff and things like that, and she's going to want to see your energy. So I was so excited to get on video chat with her, and then the screen came on, and it was a picture of flowers, and I was so disappointed, but she didn't want me to see her for some reason. But anyway, everything went as well as it would have with a video chat, just by, she was viewing me, but I couldn't see her, but we were definitely connected energetically, and she picked up some really incredible things about my past lives that I had already remembered myself. I'd already remembered the particular past life that I was dealing with at that time, and she picked up on it. She knew it instantly and was able to really dive into that, and we had a great conversation.
Did you learn anything new on that conversation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some things were revealed through her. She's a high-level energy worker, so stuff is revealed. Just like with the thing with Archangel Michael, it's the same thing with people who have done the internal work. They're higher-level energy workers, and when you get around them, things just come up to be viewed and to be dealt with. It's just part of it. If you want to have a connection with a person like that, whether that be a video chat or in person or a friend, it really doesn't matter. Whatever shadows you're carrying will come up to be viewed and dealt with in order for that connection to be and to continue.
Yeah. So besides Archangel Michael, are there any other experiences you've had with angelics that you could bring into the conversation?
Yeah, lots of them. Several different angelic entities, but one that's coming to mind is Zadkiel. I didn't know anything about him. I had never heard, really. Maybe I've heard the word in passing, but I knew nothing about the energy, knew nothing about this being an angel being. And so as a channeler, a lot of my messages are written, and you've seen how I get a channeled message and just start scribbling.
Let the audience know about Zadkiel.
Yeah. With Zadkiel, this was at a point where I was having multiple experiences. We're going to have to get into them at some point, but sitting in Buddhist consciousness for 3 days while I'm scribbling down what I can read of Buddhist consciousness, what I'm learning from that. But so it was at a time a little bit after that I was spending a lot of time at that point just journaling, channeling, receiving messages from the universe. And so this particular day, I start getting a message and Spirit's like, all right, grab your pen. I have a message. That's the feeling that comes through. And so I go and grab my journal and I just start writing whatever is coming through. And like the message even started off with like Starseed 1142. And it's almost like a timestamp, almost like a time thing. And then there was this whole channeled message. And at the end of it, the energy that was working with me and coming through and bringing that message through was just compelled. Like I said, it's more like telepathic thing, but to put it into words, asked me, can I write my name through you? Because I asked, I was like, okay, who is this? The message finished. And I was like, who is this? And the energy was like, will you let me use your body can I use your hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And I was like, okay. And so I just let my hand go limp and entity, energy, whatever, takes over, signs this really intricate signature.
Yeah.
And it was Zadkiel. And so I was really thankful for when that was over with that I had asked who it was, because then I was able to go and Google it. And who is this? What in the past has this angel been tied to? Where has he shown up in history? Across all religions, across all cultures, where does this name,
So what
this
did you
energy fit
discover
in?
about Zadkiel, about his background and where he originated? What's his story?
I don't know. I don't, that logical stuff like that.
Yeah.
It speaks to me, like those things speak to me in the moment and show me that how all of this stuff is connected in my life and how I've been led to here. And I got this message and this is the energy that's bringing it forth. But as
Okay,
far
I thought
as
you got something, but you said you Googled him. So
I
okay.
did, but you would have to Google it. I'm just that logical side, that stuff. I don't really.
Okay.
It doesn't really stick. It's like learning what I need to know in the moment, and then moving on, because I've worked with so many that I'll think back on somebody that, like we talked about Athena the other night.
Yeah.
I had to, even the other night when I was bringing that up to you, I've looked her up multiple times since that experience, which was, when was that, back in 2023 we looked at? I'm not
On the date, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm not, anyway, but I've
it's
looked
been a
her up
while.
multiple times since then to see what that energy has represented in the past, to see what the current modern day belief is in the starseed community or in the light worker community. I look at all of that, every hit that I can find in history, plus the current, what other channelers have experienced. And so I look at all of that stuff, I take it in, and I'm like, okay, that's what that energy represents. And then it's stored in me as almost like an energy ball. It's not really that logical stuff about it, just is gone. I have no idea.
Okay.
You just have to Google that shit.
Yeah, on a higher dimensional level, what does Zadkiel mean for you in that moment?
I mean, he was definitely bringing me a channeled message, a messenger, which a lot of them are. Okay. A lot of them have been documented throughout history as messengers. And so Zadkiel, that starseed message was beautiful, and it was basically telling me, he was like a middle guy, because he was telling me like what the Galactic Federation had decided, but he also brought in Christ consciousness at the end of it. He actually gave me a Bible verse, and so I wrote that down. And then he was instructing me to go and look that Bible verse up with the Passion Translation, which I absolutely love the Passion Translation, so I'm going to put a little plug in there, even though that was not planned. Okay. But Brian Simmons, the man who is translating the entire Bible, which is still happening now, I don't think that he's fully completed it yet. But he translates the words, more as what I was talking about earlier with the 3 different words of love. So he pays attention to those things, and there's lots of footnotes that describe like what that word meant, and it's just all tied in the heart that he has, because I think that's an important thing. When you look at like the King James Version, And you think about the hearts of the men that translated that, because when you look into their history, it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
And all of these things are translated through a heart space and mindsets and through humans.
Intention, yes.
Yeah. And so when I think about the King James Version, I can't. I'll still reference it here and there, but the Passion Translation, you can see that Brian, if you follow him on socials or just get to know him in any public degree like that, you can tell that he has the correct heart posture to translate the text into this realm, into this 3D printed thing. And so I was instructed. So that's what I just look at it as, like a messenger. He was giving me a message from those realms, telling me what these realms decided. And now in the 3D, I need for you to check out this Bible verse and to really check it out with the Passion Translation, which is just a message in itself, to focus on this translation and see things as a whole, higher realm, middle realm, this realm, and to pay attention to particular people and things.
Okay. So we covered a lot of ground talking about Christ consciousness and the angelics, Archangel Michael, Zadkiel. For somebody who hasn't had the same experience that you've had, but they're going down the path, I would tell them how to incorporate that or integrate that into their daily life.
Meditation and yoga are two of the best forms of healing and a journey to like wholeness that you can. Those are the two things I recommend, but also watching guided meditations with spiritual leaders and spiritual teachers is when their consciousness is in the field, when you're participating in those things. And I've learned I have guides in this realm. I have my guides in all the realms, but I have them in this one too. And some of my biggest leaps in consciousness have been through working with really high-level energy workers. I went to an event that literally changed my life because the mystic there was so powerful that once you step into a field that carries or can harness and carry the fullness of Christ consciousness for a time to bring to a situation, it affects everything and everybody around it. So I would just say it's where you put your focus. If your focus is on getting pure and getting to a place of wholeness and discovering Christ consciousness, and even like getting into the point of working with angels and stuff, literally just start talking to them. So you hadn't thought about somebody in a while or talked about somebody in a long time. It could be years. And then you start thinking about that person and you bring them up and you start talking about them. And then 3 or 4 days later, you get a phone call or a text from them. And you're like,
I was just thinking about you.
What the hell? Yeah. But it's like that same thing. Just like really start looking into them and talking to them and saying, hey, if you're real, like if this stuff is real, will you show me?
Yeah,
and they
give me a
will.
sign.
Yes. If you're really serious about that and you're not doing it just to be, they don't listen to ego. They just completely.
It has to come, like you said, from a pure heart space that you really want to know about that thing.
Yeah. If you're really curious about it, and like just start speaking with them. Hey, Archangel Michael, are you real? Can you really protect me and help me and show me things? And they will start showing up in your physical reality. You'll start seeing signs.
Give us an example of something that you've asked for. Say, is this particular thing or situation real, or whatever you're trying to manifest? Do you have an example that comes to the top of mind that you could share with the audience?
At this point, this started so many years ago. I will say one thing, though. When I was at that particular event, we were in a circle, and we were being guided by the guide to form this biosphere of energy as a group, as a whole.
Okay.
And to get connected. So we're being guided to do a particular thing. So we're all standing here. I'm sure like with the cameras rolling, it looks silly because you just got a circle of people like this with their eyes closed.
Yeah.
But energetically, multidimensionally, we were in a completely different place. We're in higher levels of consciousness that can't be seen with cameras, and doing what I'm told. I'm pouring in blue light. That's what we're being guided to do. We got the frequency music playing. We're all doing this thing, and we're being guided. Okay, pour in this electric blue light. Pour it in, and so that's what we're all doing. And everybody's silent because we're just pouring in blue light. And Spirit tells me, I want you to pour in rainbow light.
Oh, you said no.
Because I'm a disruptor everywhere I go, I feel like.
Troublemaker,
yes, it's like that. That's how I feel. I'm always being guided to do something. And that just ties into my childhood, too. It's just who I was naturally. Right. I'm a disruptor. I can't help it. But so it was the same thing. I was like, we're being guided to do a specific thing. They're the guides. Not, I can't do this. And Spirit was like, I told you, girl. Pour in rainbow light. And so I'm like, all right. So I started painting the biosphere rainbow now. And so I'm pouring in rainbow. And not 20 seconds later, a guy across the room, I had never met him before this event. Now me and his wife are extremely good friends. I love her to death. But at this point, I knew nobody. I don't even think I had ever spoken to him. I had spoken to the wife, but that was it. Very brief conversations, nothing of depth. And so anyway, he's across the room from me, and he speaks up, and he was like, wait, like I'm perceiving rainbow light in the sphere. And immediately, like I got chills all over me. Okay. I have got multiple people around me that are now we're having direct telepathic experiences. Again, I don't like to call it telepathic, but
you're in a higher level state of consciousness, and that's what
he just perceived what I did in this energy thing and called it out for everybody. And multiple things like that have happened since. Maybe not to that degree, because I really don't have many people here in Alabama, in our little section here, that participate in things like this. I actually tried to open up a business, which you're aware of, Elevated State, because I wanted to bring this stuff. I really wanted to show people the magic that is of God, that it's not just the going and sitting in church to listen to a preacher and to have a little social gathering and go home, that there is real stuff when you really get down to the core of the self, get down through those subconscious blocks that keep us from connecting deeply with each other. You really get down to that, really like magic and miracles start becoming not only possible, but just part of the daily life. You start seeing synchronicities out of this world. Yeah, I could go deep into all that stuff. But I tried to bring that here because I wanted people to experience that and to see like how deep this stuff goes with God, and how Jesus said that we would do more than he did, that we had the power that he does, and that we would do more miracles and things than he did. But nobody's operating in that these days.
Well, he's doing the work, putting in the work to unlock that capability within themselves.
And it's lack of faith. I think fear is basically at the root of all of it in some form or another.
Fear of what others may perceive you as. I think that's a big one.
A lot of mystics even that started in the church, and I have this story myself, get forced out of church, have to go run under the radar because...
Well, when the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but like just mysticism in itself.
Oh, yeah. Because it's seen as demonic or... It
is. You start talking about entities throwing books across your room and then you start being accused of being schizophrenic because you're experiencing this other realm that other people can't see. And now they're schizophrenic. They're seeing stuff that's not real. They're crazy. It doesn't happen a lot in the church because the church is structured around just the government. The church has been in control for a long time. They're the ones that
Exactly.
killed Jesus, all right? Strung him up on a cross and literally murdered him for the mysticism that he was bringing to the table. They accused him of healing people in the devil's name, that it was the devil's power, that it was the devil that had given him power to go lay hands on people and make people whole. And then they strung him up and killed him for it. And it's not that severe anymore. Like we have laws and such protecting for the most part. Depends on how much money you have, but
That's a
that's
subject
a
in
whole
itself.
nother
Yeah.
that's a whole nother
That's a mini series of
It
podcast
is.
episodes right there.
Yes. But yeah, but anyway, it didn't work out. There was no support from the community and there was pushback. All the Christians were posting on Facebook about how the crystals that we were selling, that was demonic. Oh my God, a crystal being demonic. What in the actual hell? But was that like we got shunned by the church, and some people I would see like in the streets or I got messages in my inbox like, oh, I really want to be at one of your events, but
They don't want to be seen.
I don't want to be seen there, so I can't go. But so they're in my inbox and curious about it, but afraid to actually try it out because they don't want to be seen. They don't want to be judged.
Right.
And that's sad, but we do live in a world full of judgment of all sorts. People really can't get outside of that box of religion, government law. I'm not telling people to break the law. I don't mean in that sense. It's just a framework of belief that we have here in the United States that if you start stepping outside of it, then, you know, you're crazy or you're looked at wrong or you lose your job, you lose your titles at church. There's just a lot of repercussions to becoming like Jesus.
And there you have it.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of ground in this episode. We talked about Christ consciousness, the angelics, archangels. We're going to bring a lot more to the table here on Coded Consciousness. That's what this podcast is all about. But until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Coded Consciousness.
If you enjoy the conversation, the simplest way to support the channel so we can continue creating content just like this is to like the video and subscribe.
We'll see you in the next episode.